When the sun drops behind the cane fields and the water of the bayou turns as black as tar, the good folks in St. Martin Parish, they start listening. They're listening for a single bell. Now this bell doesn't ring from the old church steeple. No, sir. This one rings from the bayou itself. It's the sound of the one they call the bell ringer of Bayou Teche. This story, it goes way back to the 1800s. A young priest, full of fire and faith, came down from the city, down from New Orleans. He had a mission, to build a chapel right there on the water's edge. He was a kind man, they said, always a smile for the children, a prayer for the sick. But when he got up on that pulpit, his voice was like thunder. He preached hard, warning the townsfolk to stay away from the old Teche at night. He said there were things in that dark water that God himself had turned his back on. Then one evening, a storm rolled in, the kind that shakes the very bones of the earth. The sky split open and the rain came down in sheets. The next morning the storm had passed, but the young priest and he was gone. A search party went out, poling their pirogues through the misty shallows. They didn't find him. All they found was his bell rope, the one he'd ring to call the faithful to prayer, tangled up in the reeds near the bank. And hanging from a low cypress limb, glinting in the first light of dawn, was his silver cross. A week passed. The town was still in mourning, the little chapel silent and empty. Then on the 7th night, at the stroke of midnight, the bell rang. Not once, not twice, but 12 times. The sound wasn't crisp and clear like it should have been. It came rolling off the bayou like a thick fog, heavy and wet. Folks who heard it, they swore it carried a whisper on the wind, a single word that chilled them to the soul: repent before the water rises. From that day on, the legend grew. Every time that phantom bell tolled in the dead of night, someone who lived near the bayou would be lost to the water. A fisherman who fell from his boat, a child who wandered too close to the bank. It was like the bayou itself was claiming them, one by one, with the bell as its herald. The sound became a death knell, a promise of sorrow carried on the midnight air. Years went by and the story became just that, a story told to scare children. But every now and then something would happen to make people believe all over again. A fisherman from down near Bro Bridge, an old-timer named Jean-Paul, he told a story that folks still whisper about. He was out on the Teche checking his lines when a sudden squall blew up. The fog got so thick, he said, he couldn't see the front of his own boat. That's when he heard it. A bell, low and slow. But it didn't sound like metal striking metal. He said it was a bone-deep sound, like thunder rolling under the water. He looked toward the shore, and through the swirling mist, he saw a figure standing there. It was tall and gaunt, dripping wet, its clothes torn and muddy. In one hand, it held a length of thick rope. With the other, it pointed a single bony finger up toward the stormy sky. Just then, a bolt of lightning lit up the whole scene for a split second, and in that flash of blinding light, the figure was gone. Jean-Paul pulled his anchor and didn't stop paddling until he saw the lights of home. He never fished that stretch of the bayou again. Even to this day, when the spring rains come and the Teche swells, threatening to flood its banks, some folks say you can still hear that bell. It's not loud, just a faint echo through the cypress trees, a mournful toll that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. They say it's the spirit of the lost priest, still ringing his warning, still trying to save the living from the fate that took him. They say if you're fool enough to go looking for the source of that sound, you'll find the old cypress tree with the bell rope still swinging ever so slightly in the breeze, and a set of wet footprints leading straight into the dark water of the bayou. A slow, solitary bell chime begins to fade in and then out. Some stories are just meant to scare you on a dark night. Others are meant to remind you that some warnings should be heeded. So if you're out walking tonight and you hear that lonesome bell ringing across the water, don't go looking for the chapel. Just bow your head, Cher, say a little prayer and keep on walking. This is Rougarou Radio, keeping the night watch in the heart of the bayou. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy these stories from the shadows, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Just not the one from the bayou. We'll be back soon with another tale. Stay safe out there.